It's around 17,000 years ago. Imagine yourself as an early human standing on the African savanna. Not once does the thought cross your mind that I need clothes. I need to change because clothing simply doesn't exist in your world. Now imagine today. It's almost impossible to live without clothes. Every morning, billions of people get dressed before leaving the house in many countries. Walking without it is not just unusual, it's illegal. We have built entire social rules around covering our bodies. But why? When did humans decide to cover their bodies with clothes? And why are only humans obsessed with clothing? No other animals wear clothes. A dog does not wear shoes. A lion does not wear jackets. Elephants don't think of it despite their incredible intelligence. But nobody knows the truth. That was the moment humans first started to wear clothes. Scientists have uncovered one of the strangest clues imaginable, and you won't believe lice are involved in it. Yes, you heard right, lice. It will sound disgusting to you, but it's also one of the greatest detective stories in the history of evolutionary science. To understand clothing, first we must know why humans go hairless. Compared to other large mammals, we are very unusual. All the other animals, like gorillas, chimpanzees, bears, and wolves, all of them, carry natural coats that fit their environment. On the other hand, humans are hairless. But why? The most widely accepted explanation is the heat. By the way, you can find the video on my channel that shows how humans become hairless. As our ancestors left the dense forest in search of food and entered into the vast fields of savanna, they started running after the hunt under the hot sun of the savanna. The thick fur trapped the heat inside the body, making endurance hunting nearly impossible. Instead of keeping us hot, evolution gave us a priceless gift, the millions of sweat glands. Humans are among the best runners on Earth because humans can cool themselves down by sweating. While many other animals overheat quickly, humans can keep moving for hours. This ability helped our ancestors to catch up to exhausted prey. It was a brilliant trade-off until the weather got cold. Being hairless works very well in African heat, but it works far less well in freezing cold temperatures. For years, scientists believed that humans started wearing clothes because they migrated to colder regions. Well, this looks like an obvious reason, but there is a problem. The timeline does not fit. Genetic studies suggest humans started clothing somewhere between 120,000 and 170,000 years ago, while large-scale migration out of Africa did not happen until 70,000 years ago. So, why did the humans wear clothes before migrating to the colder regions? That question puzzled scientists for years, and the answer came from the place we can least imagine. Lice researchers studying human parasites noticed something fascinating. Humans don't have just one kind of louse. We have two. Head lice live in hair. Body lice live almost entirely inside clothing, hiding in seams and fabric before crawling onto our skin to feed. Here is the important part. Body lice cannot survive without clothes. They evolved from head lice after humans started wearing clothing to evolve in an entire new habitat. By studying their DNA, scientists estimated that this evolution happened around 83 to 170,000 years ago. How incredible that is. A tiny parasite preserved one of the oldest clues about human history. Long before scientists assumed that febric could survive, lice had already recorded the moment in their DNA. This phenomenon brings a big mystery. If early humans weren't dressing primarily to survive freezing winters, then what were clothes actually for in the beginning? So the scientist came up with some reasons. The first one is that the human may have started clothing because of basic protection. Imagine walking through bushes, sharp rocks, tall grass, and plenty of biting insects. Even a rough animal hide draped over your shoulders is able to protect your skin from cuts, sunburn, and constant irritation. This was practical, not for fashion. Sometimes the simple explanation is the right one. But humans rarely stop at practicality. Just like in today's era, humans make hairstyles and wear jewelry, uniforms, and fashion Similarly, our ancestors likely did something similar long before. In fact, the archaeological evidence shows that ancient humans were decorating their bodies with red pigments more than 200,000 years ago, possibly before clothing even existed. That means the desires to express identity may be older than the clothing culture. When the humans started wrapping animal hides around their bodies, maybe those hides became more than protection. What animal was it? Who hunted it? Did it represent strength, skills, status? A simple hide could instantly become a message. Maybe fashion began after humans realized a simple hide or clothing could give a message. For thousands of years, these garments were very basic. Imagine a rough animal skin tied together with strips of sinew, functional, heavy, and uncomfortable, but enough to survive another day. Around 50,000 years ago, archaeologists began finding bone needles with tiny eyes carefully drilled through them. These weren't simple pointed tools. They were true sewing needles. The oldest known example comes from Denisova Cave in Siberia. Someone carefully carved a thin bird bone, polished it, drilled a tiny hole through one end, and created a tool capable of stitching clothing together with incredible precision. That may sound ordinary today. Back then, it was revolutionary. Instead of simply wrapping hides around the body, humans could now sew fitted clothing that trapped heat far more efficiently. Sleeves, seams, and tailored garments suddenly became possible. That single invention helped humans survive some of the harshest environments on Earth. And modern humans weren't the only ones figuring this out. Neanderthals were also skilled at preparing animal hides. Archaeologists have discovered specialized stone tools covered with wear marks from scraping leather, showing they processed skins long before meeting Homo sapiens. Their stocky bodies were adapted for freezing climates, but clothing would still have been essential for survival. Then there were the Denisovans, an ancient human species we only discovered in 2010 from a single finger bone found in that same Siberian cave. Alongside their remains, researchers uncovered carefully crafted ornaments and advanced tools, suggesting they weren't just surviving, they were decorating themselves as well. That changes the story completely. Clothing wasn't a unique invention of modern humans. Different human species, living in different places, all reached the same conclusion. Wrap yourself in something, protect yourself, and eventually express yourself. Maybe clothing wasn't simply a human invention. Maybe it was the natural solution any intelligent social species would eventually discover. But humans didn't stop at survival. They transformed clothing into something much bigger. Once clothing existed, something unexpected happened. It stopped being just a tool for survival. Humans gave it meaning. If clothes were only about staying warm, every culture would have dressed almost the same. Thick clothing in cold places, light clothing and hot ones, simple and practical. But that's not what happened. Across every civilization we know, clothing became a symbol. It showed who you were, where you belonged, and sometimes even what others were allowed to think about you. Leaders wore different clothing than ordinary people. Warriors dressed differently from priests. Ceremonies required special garments. Even the dead were buried in carefully chosen clothing. Some of the oldest textile fragments ever discovered were dyed in different colors. Think about that. Someone looked at a perfectly useful piece of fabric and decided it should be a different color, not because it worked better, but because it meant something. That's what makes humans different. We don't just wear clothes, we use them as a language. Without saying a word, clothing can tell others our identity, our culture, our profession, our beliefs, or even our mood. No other animal comes close to doing that. Then nature forced clothing to become even more important. Between roughly 120,000 and 70,000 years ago, the planet entered a series of harsh ice age climates. Temperatures dropped, landscapes changed, food became scarce, and human populations shrank dramatically. Some scientists believe our species may have fallen to only a few thousand surviving individuals. For those survivors, clothing was no longer optional. A well-made animal hide could trap warm air close to the body. Carefully stitched garments protected the wrists, neck, and hands, places where heat escapes the fastest. Those who knew how to prepare hides, sew clothing, and layer materials had a huge advantage. They survived, they raised children, and those skills were passed from one generation to the next. Without clothing, humans could never have expanded into Europe, Central Asia, or eventually every continent on Earth. We didn't just adapt our bodies to new environments, we built ourselves a second skin. As time passed, clothing continued to evolve. Animal hides eventually gave way to woven plant fibers. Humans learned to twist fibers into thread, weave fabric, and create lighter, more comfortable garments. By the time farming appeared around 10,000 years ago, textile production had become one of humanity's greatest technologies. Soon came linen, wool, cotton, and eventually silk. Entire civilizations traded fabric across continents. Kingdoms grew wealthy through textiles. Some of history's most famous trade routes existed because people wanted better cloth. What began as a simple animal hide slowly became one of the foundations of civilization itself. So why did ancient humans start wearing clothes? The answer isn't just one reason. It was for many reasons, arriving one after another. Clothing probably began as protection against the sun, insects, thorns, and rough landscapes. It quickly became a way to express identity and social status. Later, as climates became colder and humans spread across the world, it became essential for survival. And over thousands of years, it transformed into culture, art, technology, and personal expression. The remarkable part isn't that humans invented clothing. Considering how social, creative, and adaptable we are, it may have been inevitable. Think about what you're wearing right now, whether you chose it for comfort, style, work, or simply because it was clean. That decision says something about you. In a strange way, you're doing exactly what one of your ancestors was doing over 150,000 years ago, using clothing to tell the people around you who you are. From a roughed and animal hide on the African savanna to the clothes hanging in your closet today, the idea has never really changed. We get cold, we get creative, we get dressed, and somehow, after all these thousands of years, we still stand in front of the wardrobe saying, I have absolutely nothing to wear. Maybe some things never change. So here's a question for you. If you were sent back 170,000 years, would you survive without clothes? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.